All right, welcome to the Life of Joey Calvo podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Of course, we are on YouTube as well as on PhillyCAM TV. So if you have any questions for our guests during the time, please place them in the comments on YouTube and they will be answered. So today, before we even get started, it started with the last episode that we did. The podcast now actually has a website. We officially, well, it's not officially, it's up and running, but there's still kinks to it, quote unquote. And so it's in the video description for YouTube, but it's lifewithjoeycalvo.website. And on there you will see, you can click on back to the YouTube where you can see all the previous episodes. You can also support the podcast as well. And we are working to get the merchandise store linked to the website as well. And so we have all the upcoming guests. And so it starts with our guest today, Aleta Hunt, otherwise known as Beme.
Yes.
And so Beme has an extra exciting, interesting story to tell us today. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. And so who are you? Explain who you are and how we got to where we're at right now. That is the main question I always ask every guest.
Okay. Well, who I am, or so I believe who I am, or what I believe in myself as being who I am, is an individual who looks at life as steps that we take. In each step, there's lessons learned, all the way from childhood until our death. What I like to emphasize in my philosophy is, though we go through a lot of things, we'll come out on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, I know people say stay positive, but I believe in staying upbeat, because when you're in the midst of it, the word positive kind of like sinks because you're not trying to hear that in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I believe
I agree to that.
100%. So as an entrepreneur, an author, and a business owner myself, everything centers around the individual and about self-acknowledgement. And then learning how to use that self-acknowledgement, which means being aware of everybody around you and how it affects you, how to incorporate that when you're learning or you're exhibiting your life skills or or how you move through life. Because everyone has a different move through life.
Right.
I believe we were created to all be the same. So everyone's journey is different, and I try to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you got into this, and what led you to want to do what you do right now?
I spent an amazing 25 years in foster care. I know people hear the stories of foster care. They see it on the news sometimes when children are being removed from their home. But it reaches so much further and deeper than that. And in my 25 years, I helped formulate a program under one agency that dealt with teens who, as most of us know, if you're in foster care, and this is not exaggeration, a lot of teens don't get to go home or they don't have permanent places. They move about. And we were having a session where one kid brought up the fact that they lose a lot. And we weren't just talking about their material things. They were saying they lose a lot because they can't go home to their family 9 times out of 10, or the person they're with can't keep them or don't want to keep them. So they're being shifted and shifted and shifted. So in that one session, the emotions were so raw that it made me think like this is a much needed thing with teenagers. helping them process that feeling of loss.
Mm-hmm.
But as I developed the program, it translated into the employees.
Mm-hmm.
How that happened, I don't know. I just think what I speak resonates with people a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and they take it and they kind of incorporate it into their own lives. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I'm not trying to lead anybody anywhere
Mm-hmm.
because that's not where I am. I'm not trying to save anyone
Right.
because that's not who I am.
Right.
But that's what happened. It translated into that, which then going to another agency, those same processes translated into helping them develop their foster parent program
Mm-hmm.
where kids would divide from the foster parents during sessions. We teach them things and then we take it to the parents as well so that they could facilitate conversations going on. And from there it just kept resonating and rolling and growing. And here
Mm-hmm.
I am leading private groups, open session groups,
Mm-hmm.
personal groups, writing books,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully increasing my speaking engagements.
Okay. And so you said you wrote some books. Elaborate on your books a little bit.
The first release was called The ABCs of Life. It's a 365 guide to what I talk about,
Mm-hmm.
the principles of life, like time management, having peace. It's designed so that any individual can use it, whether you're a journaler, whether you're a reader, whether you like movies or you like other books. There's space in there for artists. And it's not set up where you go page one, page two, page three. It's set up where you start anywhere in your life where you feel the need to start. It
Mm-hmm.
runs 365 days. You
Mm-hmm.
write for 1 week without referring to it during the week. At the end of the week, you go back and review it. So if there's anything in your life you want to change, it's right there on the paper for you. But the
Mm-hmm.
process is to not go back when you're in it. Because I believe sometimes when people do that, that's how you become stuck where
Mm-hmm.
you are and can't move forward. My other book is complementary to the first book. It is a read book, but it's
Mm-hmm.
only 46 pages. It takes about an hour to read. It's
Mm-hmm.
available on Amazon. And it stresses those stages that I spoke of before, where when you're childhood, there are childhood memories, where preschool, maybe kindergarten, where you learn how to socially get along. Then as we grow, middle school, where you're trying to formulate those relationships, high
Mm-hmm.
school, where you're like, okay, I'm almost there, I'm almost grown. College,
Mm-hmm.
you become independent from sort of your parents, but not quite there. And then
Right.
after college, it's like, okay, what do I do now? How do I
Yeah.
navigate this? What's next for me? Even if you think you have it figured out, life has a way of what they say, lifing. So some struggles may come along, and even though you may be well equipped to deal with them, there
Mm-hmm.
still may be some things that intertwine with that causes you, as I would say, to take a pause, to rethink things and reevaluate, is this right for me? Am I being led by what someone else thinks of me? Am I being led by what I allow others to dictate to me who I am, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to being led by who I am in my own internal soul, in my own spirit, is how I see it. So those
Okay.
books that I think help, they have in the past. One of them
Mm-hmm.
was used during one of my groups. It's actually recommended by therapists for people who may be afraid to see a therapist but want somewhere to start
Yeah.
before they get to the therapy lessons. Because again, meeting people where they are is the most important thing in life. You can't have people meet you at your level because
Yeah.
they may not be there. And you
Right.
can't not meet them at their level because you have to understand who they are and what their journey is, because their journey is not your journey.
Right. That yeah, and that's truly understandable in reference to it. And as you were explaining all this, I'm like, this is actually me, because growing up, you know, I I mean, I went to school, but when I went to school, I was picked on. If it wasn't because of my looks, it was because of the clothes I wore. Because of course, back in the 70s and 80s, we had Kmart clothes.
Yes,
Yes,
I work for
and
Kmart.
so if you were wearing J.C. Penney's or Macy's or all those fancy stores back then, you were something.
Yes.
But if you wore Kmart clothes, you were nothing. And it took a little bit. It took a little bit of time. And through school, I was kind of the smart one, which I kind of now regret sometimes because I'm not saying being smart's the greatest, okay, but in 8th grade, and see, I'd never told this story before, folks, so I'm going to tell this. In 8th grade, correction, 9th grade. There we go, 9th grade. My freshman year in high school, we had an algebra teacher, God rest her soul, who literally, I couldn't say really teach per se,
Mm-hmm.
but I had, being so far advanced, I had taken algebra in 8th grade and failed it. So I turned around literally, and in my freshman year of high school, I literally was teaching 9th grade algebra.
Wow.
I stood in front of the class, and I mean, it got me to realize, that teaching was really going to be my thing. Aleta, let's just say it this way. Someone took their algebra book, wham,
Wow.
right at me. And I mean, I was like, wow, like, I'm doing this because, our teacher ain't the greatest, but I wind up acing the class anyway, mainly because it was almost like I kissed her rear end.
Wow.
But there's also little secrets that we find out later on in reference to it. But I literally, I thought I was doing something, and I paid the price for it. But
Mm-hmm.
did anybody fail? Actually, I don't know. I don't. But a lot of my classmates learned. They learned because, like I said, the teacher really wasn't doing much.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay. So, I was like, oh, maybe teaching is going to be my thing. So I wind up graduating high school. Matter of fact, Tuesday, as this is airing, we're coming up on 36 years. No, 37 years. Oh my gosh, 37 years. Since I graduated, and but still during that time, I was still being picked on, and still being put down. But during that time that I mentioned about, and like I said, this is the first time I actually told that story about me.
Wow.
And just bringing it out was just actually interesting to want to bring it out because, especially because it's when we're taping this, and but as the years went on, things changed about me a little bit in reference to being put down. I mean, the put downs started to loosen up, but I was still not fully accepted. I still did not feel really accepted as a person, or even. I mean, I got accepted as that word that I just disallowed recently, and that's called friend.
Okay.
So, I was accepted as that, but that was it. And I was like, I wish I could have been more than that because I thought I was really interesting. I thought I really, I was like, I was trying to impress so many people back then. And, you know, it's just, it just was, going nowhere. And then I turned around and I was working in a supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wind up with, we had, now we're dating late 80s, early 90s, folks. So I was like 17, 18, and working in a supermarket as a cashier. And so I turned around, and all of a sudden, I didn't think this would happen, but this one young lady would only want a bag for me, no one else. And I'm thinking, like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Am I? Is there something about me that that really resonates? And so that bagger wind up being my first girlfriend.
Wow.
After a little bit, and it was, and I'm not saying this to sound racist, folks, in reference to it, but back then you had the interracial relationships. That was my first relationship. That was my first relationship, and we lasted a year and a half, about a year and a half. And I don't know what I did in reference to it, but she wound up cheating on me in reference to it. I don't know. Like I said, I try to figure out what I did, but like, as time has gone on,
It may not have been you.
yeah, yeah, but you know what? I to this day I do blame me. I blame me for everything, because I'm like, if I didn't do one thing, I did another. And it took me, I'm 55 now.
Mm-hmm.
It took me 34 years to 35 years to find out that I wind up, if I wasn't controlling, that I was rushing things. And I sometimes I knew I did, because I was like, I was just so, so excited about it at the time. And I guess I didn't look at how to really look at a relationship back then, and then realized that I was pushing things on top of it as well. And like you were saying about how foster kids don't go home to a real family.
Yep. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah, and it just made me think of me and how I grew up. I mean, I had a family, but even the family was putting me down sometimes. You know, they didn't real, I mean, they were having their fun, but they didn't realize the damage they were causing.
Exactly.
And that damage came with me. And even, like I said, in school, being picked on all those years until high school and stuff, where people turned around, actually started to respect me a little bit. I mean, not the way I would have thought that it could happen. And like I said, that's why I dissolved. Like recently, I turned around. I said, I don't believe in the word friendship. And the reason why I don't believe in the word friendship is because of, a friend is supposed to sometimes physically hang out with you.
Yes.
Okay. A friend is supposed to be there to support you. I'm mean, I don't get me wrong. There is someone that does that. Okay, and we're going to get to that later on in reference to it. But people, or I mean, I made some exceptions to it, but in reality, if you're not physically hanging out with me or spending time with me, you're not a friend. Because
I call those associates.
Associate, yeah, and that's what I've gotten. That's what I've gotten it down to.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Aleta. I never wanted. I didn't think about using that word in reference to it. But you know what? There's even sometimes they're not even associates.
Well, you know what? There are other type of people, and a lot of people might not. We call them frenemies. They're your friends, but they're actually undercover enemies. There's some underlying dislike and something about you that pushes them to push buttons unnecessarily. And because they can't express it, because they don't know themselves, or maybe they do, it just turns them like, they're like, hey, let's go hang out. But then at some point, they said something about you that really wasn't flattering, probably not in your face, but probably other people you're associating with. And like what you're describing to me now during your grammar school and middle school years and even high school is similar to me. I grew up in the projects of Illinois, Chicago. And no, we didn't wear designer all the time. Only when my mom, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, all those special holidays.
Yeah, like Easter and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I worked at Kmart. We wore Kmart brand. I remember I had a Payless pair of shoes and the kids laughed at me. But so by the time I got to high school, I'm looking for the designer. But my mom and my dad tried to keep us grounded by saying, hey, if you want those things, you have to work for those things, which is why I ended up at Kmart. But what you're describing is how that trauma affected you later in life. And I'm not a therapist, but just from many years of observing people in their trauma, your need to control is because of that trauma you experienced in your early years. It's like, if I can control a situation, then they won't bully me because I'm in control. And that eagerness to push it along is because it's like, but if I don't push it along, then I'm not going to be part of this group because they're going to leave me behind because they see me as this nerd, which me too. I was very smart throughout all my years in school. I studied, got a degree in drafting. Nobody could imagine foster care would take 25 years of my life.
Yeah.
But here I am full circle after my mom passed 3 years ago. My sister handed us over the things that she kept that she felt was important to her. And in there, I pull out this paper of this drawing and this book of this girl who's going through some stuff. And I'm like, oh my God. And it was like my third grade writing.
Yeah.
So it's like a full circle. So I do understand what you're saying. And that is where in my books, you learn to kind of navigate that for yourself.
Yeah.
One word is aim. And part of my description is aim for the best, aim high. But then it talks about how you get there. And then you practice it for 7 days without look back. You write the night before, you get up and say, this, I know what I wrote last night. This is what I'm going to try to do. And it's not always about achieving it because sometimes you might not get to the end goal on that day. As long as you've made the attempt, that in itself is growth.
Right.
The attempt. And then you get the next week to review what you did the week before and start all over again. And again, like I said, if you're not a writer, there's movies in there that I list in that book that get you to that same process. Just by them and deciphering what they're talking about, not just looking at the movie stars and all of that, but the actual message in them. There's art pieces for people who are visual learners to look at the art and say, okay, I can see in this why she chose this for this. There's music that again does the same thing, and then a space for drawing. But unlike these ran over shoes, it describes exactly what you're talking about. In preschool, you're nervous. No one knows anyone. All you want to do is go home every day. I think for preschool, even though my grandmother was a teacher at the preschool, I probably cried the first 2 weeks of preschool.
There was times I came home from school crying. On top of it, because I was like, what's going on? Why am I being treated like this? etc.
Yes,
And
me
and
too.
even in high school, I would come home like really upset, and it wind up taking till 2009 to be diagnosed with anxiety and depression
Wow.
because of everything that happened. And it led to a mistake where I lost part of my life to it, only because of everything, like you said, of all the trauma that I went through in my life. It
Yeah.
all came on me. So now I've gotten to the point where the trauma is still there. And I attempt to fight it, and you have people that are there for you. They're like, you got to be positive. You got to, you can do this. I believe in you. Aleta, I get upset now when people actually say that they believe in me, because I'm like, why do you believe in me after what I'm doing to you, or or how I could be treating you right now? How like you know I'm doing stuff to you that you may not know that I'm doing, or in reference to one person in particular, that person is the one that showed me what I was actually doing, the controlling, the pushing and stuff. And I turned around, Aleta, the shocking thing would ever come out of anybody's mouth out of this.
What?
I said thank you. I
Wow.
literally said thank you. Because I was like, I did not know I was doing this. I never knew in all my years that I was actually doing this to people. I didn't know that I was treating people, and which made me start to realize I could have been lying to myself, that I'm actually listening to people, that I'm there for people, and everything just steamrolled off of it.
Yeah.
But
That's what happens.
but I showed appreciation to that person, and that person's like, well, why are you thanking me for me making you unhappy? It's not that you made me unhappy. You told me, you actually said to me what I should be hearing.
Absolutely.
Just like, I would go up to a young lady if they're very beautiful, and like, you look very beautiful, etc. Compliment. Well, you know, there was one day that I was out in the neighborhood at night, kind of wanting to wish they could have quote unquote partied. But I turned around and complimented this person, and they turned around and they said, "You have a nice smile." Aleta, I couldn't think of a negative thing at that point. I was just like stomped. Like, whoa. Like, this just got thrown at me, and I couldn't fight back on it. Like, it was a shock. I couldn't, I could turn around and said, thanks, but but I just could not say a word to it. I was like speechless. But the next time I saw that person, I turned around and I said, I'm not the greatest person in the world either. And I mean, this person listened,
Mm-hmm.
and literally was like, maybe you don't see who you are, but deep down, they do, because I literally told them who I am. I may not have said, everything. And I mean, there's like the one person in particular. Now, I appreciate everything this person's done.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I appreciate everything this person's done. What am I doing? Pushing them away.
Because you probably feel like it's too good to be what it is.
Between that, or I feel like something good's gonna happen. Like and the thing is, something good happened during that time. But then,
I get it.
But then something bad happened in reference to it. And this is what I normally tell myself. Sometimes when I feel like something good's going on, something's going to destroy it.
You believe in self-sabotaging, and that's the part you might still need to work through. It might not come easy, like you said. You
Yeah.
might find it difficult to make the approach. But again, that's something you have to work on. But you also have to realize that in your scenario, that the person that was complimenting you may have been in alignment with their own self-awareness, that they could see in you what you can't see. Because remember, you're carrying that baggage of all the put down, all the bullying, all the you're a smarty pants. You're still carrying that. That baggage doesn't go away. We
Yeah.
just learn to put it in sections and maybe hide it for a little while. But
Yeah.
it will come back. And if you're scared and feeling uneasy about things, you're going to do what you're going to do. Even if someone's doing the kindest things to you, your first thought is to go to, well, this can't be true. Yeah, I understand it's good for me, but watch something bad happen. Well, now you're talking that into an existence.
Yeah.
And I believe, and that's why and I kind of agree with you. For people to say, I believe in you, it's hard when you don't believe in yourself.
Right.
So once you learn alignment, when those things start lining up in your life, that seems to keep becoming positive and moving you forward. At some point, you got to say, I am good. I am this person.
Yeah.
I believe in myself. Like, as you were talking, I was thinking of an R&B song that comes on the radio often. It's like, if you could see you, if you can see you through my eyes, here's what I'll have to say. And it's all about them saying, I see you as this type of person, this best person, this loving person to me, this person who offers me what I need in my life. Because not everybody can do that. So if you can see you through my eyes, you'd understand why I'm telling you these things.
Yeah.
In bad situations, when someone's telling you about a habit that may not be particularly becoming, it's because your alignment in that moment was meant for you to hear it then, not before, not after,
Right.
in that moment, because that moment may have been the most important moment for you to hear it in.
Yeah.
That's the moment that's going to resonate with you.
Yeah. And then when I heard that moment of, what I was doing, like I said, I showed appreciation for it because I was like I said, thank you for letting me know who I am. And because of that, like I said, I'm like pushing away everyone because I'm like, I don't want to do this to anybody else now. I don't want to be that person to anyone else. So I started telling people I'd rather be out of sight, out of mind because of what I wind up building up and what people saw in me. And like I said, that day that I was stomped on, I was speechless, and I couldn't think of anything negative to throw back at it. I mean, that was the shock of the day, or I could say the shock of my life. But now I can turn around, and literally say, I literally say now that I don't see another relationship in my life, but it's actually wrong because there is a relationship in my life that is fighting. And it's hard for me not to let go of that person because of who they are and what they've done. It's hard for me because I really am interested in that person. But again, I threw up those defense mechanisms of the ugliness, the controlling, everything else that I've mentioned, the trauma that we explained, to the point where I'm like, we're only going to converse on certain things,
right?
Instead of conversing on life in general. And believe me, I really want to spend the rest of my life with this person. I really do. And Aleta, it hurts me left and right for it because I blame myself for it. And those famous the famous term, you're your own worst enemy.
Yes.
I canned it. I literally made myself that. And I literally will never forgive myself for everything I've done in the past. In my past, I can't forgive myself for everything I've done. I really can't. As much as God has forgiven me, and some people have forgiven me, I still lost things out of it.
Well, can I ask you this?
I can't explain what the mistake is because of cancel culture, I would say, in reference to it.
Mm-hmm.
But because of that, I mean, there are some family members that stopped talking to me.
Okay.
I lost that. There are some. If I did go to an event, which I did years ago,
Mm-hmm.
there was some backlash, and I was, thank God, there was some people that were on my side that, were there with me to spend time with in reference to it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, they wouldn't let me drink wine. That was the only bad thing, and that wasn't even my control. It was them saying, "Okay, you're having this, and this." I was being controlled that night, in a way. But I kept saying, I'd rather have wine because wine is healthy for me, and I can get by, on wine, as compared to literally, drinking hard alcohol. And then on top of that, I couldn't even stay long because, transportation wise, I had to be back and catch the last train to come back to Philadelphia, at like 20 minutes till 11 at night. So it was like I really couldn't even enjoy the time. But because of that mistake, which led to me being diagnosed with anxiety and depression in 2009, or was part of what led me to it, is what really, like I said, is all the trauma
Mm-hmm.
that we discussed. It all just blew up then, and then I went, and since I was separated after that, and attempted to rebuild my life. I mean, I did have a relationship, which was good, and that person's still there. And then I built up a new relationship, and that new relationship is the one that I'm struggling with right now. But it's not because of that person. It's because of me. It's because all of a sudden I'm throwing myself back into what's going on. And it's not right to that person.
And that could be very true.
Yeah.
I think what I hear you saying is, you're scared. You're scared that all the luggage and baggage that you carry from all the trauma in your life is inevitably going to show back up, and you believe that, and that is probably what's holding you in the position you are in.
Mm-hmm.
My question though would be to those who do that: take a moment, sit back, and think, how much longer and how tired do I have to get before I'm ready to store that baggage, which works for me no more? Because it can't be working for you. You already know that. You said that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's not working for you. Mm-hmm. That's why you keep pushing people away. Why you say you don't believe in friendships.
Yeah.
You rather have associates.
Yeah.
And it seems to me you come through a breakthrough, but you can't believe yourself that you've had this breakthrough. So what you'd rather do is, well, you know what? Yep, I broke that wall down. I made it through that barrier. Hold on. Not comfortable. Let me put it back up. Because this is my safe zone. I'm going to stay in the safe zone because nobody can hurt me. Nobody can bully me. Nobody can tell me what to do. And I could just live my life the way I want to. But again, we don't live in this world as an I. And I know people say it all the time, there's no I in team.
Yep.
Okay, there's not.
No.
But there's a world of people out here who is willing to work with you,
Yeah.
alongside you, and carry you. And that is the definition of a true friend. I rely on my spirituality and my faith and my beliefs to carry me through.
Yeah.
People say they drink wine. Well, in social services, when you drink wine and you have addictions to cover up the hurt and the trauma that you've had in your life,
Yeah.
we call those self-medicating.
Okay.
Because you're doing things that make you feel good just to make the bad stuff feel better. And
Right.
it's never going to feel better. Because all you're going to do is every time you feel those feelings, you're going to go back to that thing that made you feel better, or that addiction that made you feel better, or that comfort zone that made you feel better. Instead of saying, you know what, I broke through, don't look back. And again, in my book, ABCs of Life, when you're journaling like that, and that's why I set it up like that, to write the night before, and not no long, prolonged dialogue, just some simple 10 sentences, and put it away. So when you get up the next morning, say, yep, I wrote this about myself. I'm going to try to do this. You don't even go back to it for 7 days. On the seventh day is when you go back and review. And then you say, okay, I have next week to improve upon what I've already built, what I already know about myself, or what I didn't like. So over the next 7 days, which you call my redo days, you get the opportunity to make it better for yourself, and maybe for the people around you. It's like stepping stones. It's like building your own stepping stones. If we can build walls to separate us from our emotions because we don't want to be hurt, then we can certainly build stepping stones and a staircase to climb over that wall if we're too afraid to go through it or break it down.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So I see life. Like, if you're afraid to break that barrier, then don't break the barrier. Use stepping stones to go over it. No mountain is ever too high to climb over if you keep telling yourself that maybe I can. Yes, I can. And yes, I'm going to falter. Like I tell people, and this is my faith, I say, for me, God is behind me. So if I fall back, he'll push me forward. He's in front of me to guide my steps. He's alongside to carry me. He's under my feet to move me forward as well. But most of all, he's above me to cover me so that I know that I'm safe.
Yep.
You know, and I use that as my motivation to move forward.
Okay. All right. So, of course, I just pulled up our number one fan, number one supporter, and she's a real life superheroine by the name of American Fox. And so she has questions for you, Aleta. And the first question that she has for you is, let me do this correctly. Do you have any favorite metaphors that you use often?
I do. I have a lot of them because my grandmother was one for metaphors of life. But there's one particular one that I use for myself, which reminds me that I'm not perfect, because somewhere along in life, I thought I was perfect, or I should be perfect, because people made me feel that way. And that metaphor is, I'm not always right, but I'm not always wrong either. I'm not always right, but I'm not always wrong either. That gives you the opportunity to be able to make a mistake and move on.
Yeah. And believe me, I feel that. That I feel in reference to that. It took a little bit to learn that, realizing I'm not perfect, but at the same time, when I'm putting up the walls, all the everything to block from being hurt, I literally start telling people, I'm not right for you because of this, or I'm not right for you because of that, or there's someone better than me, because I'll turn around and throw my looks in on it, and saying I'm, this ugly and creepy looking loser. but I'll, like I said, I'll turn around and say, there's someone better looking than I am. There's someone that can take better care of you than I could, because my version of dinner out right now is like McDonald's, as compared to somebody who could take you to a fancy restaurant and treat you to the hilts and take you to a 5-star hotel and yada yada yada.
Well, two things. Beauty is always in the eye of the beholder. And I know people say that a lot, but it truly is. What I see as beautiful may not be beautiful to you, but it may be beautiful to me, and that's all that matters.
Right.
In reference to my life. And the other thing is, sometimes the little things are better than the big things. I'm one of those people, you give me something small, and it references something I've mentioned to you. I'm more appreciative of that than the big elaborate, throw me a ball, take me to $100 plate dinner.
Yeah.
You walk me to McDonald's, or I don't eat McDonald's, but if I reference something like, oh, I found this restaurant, I think I'm gonna try or whatever. Sometime later you go, you know what, let's go to this restaurant, or you just take me there. I'm more appreciative of that. And it doesn't even have to be an expensive restaurant. Or if I want to go see the new movie that's coming out this weekend, and you just pop up and say, hey, let's go to the movie.
Yeah.
Those things matter. So not all the time are big things the biggest of all things that makes people feel good. Sometimes it's just the little things that people can do that make you feel wonderful about yourself and about them, because they're listening and you're being
and that's what I'm learning about the second person that has an interest in me, in reference to it, and really stands behind me and really, in a way, fights for me too. That I just didn't know. So question 2 from American Fox is, tell us about your writing ideas for the future and the types of genre.
Well, let's see. There is a third book that's already written. It is fictionally based. It's interesting. It also bases things on relationships and the dynamics thereof. And for that one, there's a twist to it that I don't want to mention here.
Okay.
You need to read it to find out. And from there will be a series of books that follows each character, their before and their now.
Okay.
Based upon it gives sort of the backdrop of how they became who they are and why they act the way they did in the third book that I've already written. So those are forthcoming. My genres.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to follow up on this question only because American Fox would probably be interested in hearing this answer. Okay. Have you thought of creating or writing a book in a superheroine type format in reference to what you've done in your life?
No. Let me just be honest. No.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I, for personal reasons, don't see myself as any hero.
Okay.
I don't idolize anyone, because I think every person has the ability to be that superhero for someone. There's no one particular person, including myself, that I see people should look up to and say, I'm going to be a savior like that. Because I don't believe in people saving people per se. And I'm going to say saving in quotes, because no one can save anyone else. We can help them certainly reach their highest potential or what they feel is their destiny, but we can't save them from themselves or the things around them. And again, I say save in quotes, because again, my Christian beliefs has me believe there's only one person that was able to save.
Yes.
And he's not here right now.
Yeah.
But me saving you and being your superhero, yes, you can model yourself after the behavior you like in me, but I don't want to be idolized, nor do I want to put an idol out there for someone to look to as the person that's going to be the panacea to everything in their life.
Okay.
Come in and swoop you to this fabulous life that's going to be problem free, and every ending is a good ending, because life doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Right.
It has its bads, it has its good ups and downs, like they say, the peaks and the valleys.
Yeah.
So
well, okay. And so the last question from American Fox is, how do others affect your craft?
I receive advice just like I give it. When I have relationships with my friends, like for instance, in my group of individuals that I text with every so often, more than not, we are a support to one another. We started at an agency together, and they just valued what I had to say, and I valued what they had to say.
Mm-hmm.
So I use what they tell me in my life. I reflect upon it and say, hey, there might be somebody else out there that needs to hear this, because they're going through something similar, not exactly the same, because the principles of life, the 7 principles of life, are the same, but the way we experience them are different. However, if I can provide one avenue of how to navigate it, and you combine it with what works for you, you might just come out on the other side feeling accomplished, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right, American Fox, thank you as always for the questions and the interesting discussion that we brought out of it. And so, in reference to what's next for Aleta?
Well, what I'm praying on, and hopefully it will come to fruition, is I can see myself on producing, or at least writing, a script for television or movie or film. I can see that coming, especially with this next novel that's coming forth. So hopefully that, and more speaking engagements,
Okay. And so how can people reach out to you, since we have a couple minutes left?
Okay. If you want to be inspired on a semi-daily basis, because I don't post all the time because I got a lot of stuff going on in my life, you can reach me at Beme on Meta/Facebook. Instagram is Beme as well, with the B_E_M_E. Everything is Beme. So if you're being eccentrically me every day, or Beme, you absolutely you can find me there. Or I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, and I have a website, which is finding its own identity right now. So don't be too hard on it when you go to it. It's www.bemeauthentically.com. There are a few items on there. I'm trying to get it to find itself, because it wants to give out things that make people feel good, like candles and accessories and things of that nature. So please be kind to it right now while it's trying to find its identity. It's working through its crisis right now.
Aleta, believe it or not, I am a candle lover, and a quick story, since we have a couple minutes. I have another quick story. The relationship I had before I got married was actually into party light candles, and so I wind up. This relationship got me into candles, and actually got me into selling. Being a sales representative, kind of, and so their thing was, they got a plus out of it because they got a discount for all the candles and accessories they wanted. But she had so many candles that she really loved the product, and she got me involved in it, and I started to get interested in it. And so I wind up going to a convention for it, and unfortunately, I get a phone call. She's cheating on me. I'm like, everything that I'm thinking is good for me. Like I said earlier, everything that I'm thinking is good for me is being self-sabotaged in some way, shape, or form. So, but to this day, I still have some of the original items that I had from that relationship.
Wow.
And so, I mean, yeah, when I look at it, if I brought it out, yeah, it's gonna bring back memories. But at the same time, I'm still interested in the product to the point where I actually get emails for it now, believe it or not. So, but Aleta, you're welcome to come back on it anytime.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back again.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the interesting podcast. There was a lot to learn, and there may be more to learn that we may not know about. And hopefully, everybody go to bemeauthentically.com, and maybe you will learn more.
Find me more on Facebook. That's where you really learn.
Yeah, definitely on Facebook. Just go under Beme, B_E_M_me.
That's for Instagram. Yep. And Facebook is at Beme, Beme, and it's the one with the burgundy and the turquoise and the gold, because those represent life, royalty, and just transition.
Okay. And definitely, like I said, check her out. And definitely, like I said, you're welcome to come back on anytime. Just reach out to me and we'll make it happen. And thank you, everybody, for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.
God bless you. Have a nice night, everyone.